Continuing on with Chapter 5 under Table Layouts, we were discussing clearing the sorts a minute ago when I was talking. Now, it will come down, well, I don't really want to just clear everything. I just want to clear a particular sort. And let's say I want to clear the taxon kind sort. I can come down here and do a right click on the actual column I want to get rid of, and I can do a clear sorting. And now I'm only sorting on the major components and the component name. So there's another technique that you can use in your analysis of your data. You'll notice that local phase is a pretty wide column, and I really don't want that much width. So I can come over here and put my mouse on the line between the two, and you'll notice that when I'm in that band or when I'm in that column header, now it all depends on where you're going to be selecting, but since local phase is a band and a column header itself, I can put that mouse right over that line, and I can click, and I can move the size of that, either widening it or decreasing it, whichever the case may be. Same thing with taxon kind. It is a band and a column header onto itself. So I can use the mouse to be able to resize that particular column. Let's contrast that to a band, and here we've got the comp % band, and the low is one that I want to resize. I can come over here and grab that column header and resize it, and I can grab the high and resize it, but you'll notice that what ends up happening is because high is also the line for the band itself, that it doesn't really work too well on that. I can come back over here and resize that way. So just be aware of some of the little nuances that are in this. Now, the other method that we can use is we can do a right click, and I can say best fit this particular column, and there it goes through for that particular column. I can also come back over and do a right click menu, and I can choose to do best fit on all the columns, and then it goes through the entire component table and identifies the best fit for each one of those particular column headers, and then resizes the columns to fit that particular the needs for that particular column. So you can see, looking at the taxonomic class, that it is fairly wide. They are all calculated. And here is the maximum width entry for that particular taxonomic class column, and that's the reason why it stops right there. That's what dictated the actual width of that column. So you now know how to hide the columns by using either the right-click menu or by dragging and dropping. You also know how to use the right-click menu to be able to resize the columns. You also need to be aware of the fact that there may be some particular columns, and let's just use this as an example. I'm not interested in any of these state interpretations. They're cluttering up my work. So I can click and drag and remove each one of these if I choose, and get rid of all of these. And they move out that quickly. So there you go. There's an easy way, and like I said, I can always bring them back by doing a right click, hidden columns, and here are all of the columns that I removed. Gives you a good idea of how that works. Okay, bands, column headers, resizing, sorting, clear sorting, we've covered all of those. Now the next one, how do you move these things around? Well, there's many ways of being able to do that. For example, I'm going to shrink the size of my lineage, but I want my component name to be the very first column. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move it over to where the arrows say it's going to fit. I'm going to remove sequence, I'm going to remove low, I'm going to remove high, and I'm starting to manipulate this table to be the way I want it to look. Well, the other important column I might have might be slope gradient, because all of our components are based off of a different slope. So I can come over here and say, well, give me all of my components. And then I don't like this particular sort being ascending, because it puts all my minor components first. So I'm going to clear this sorting, and I'm going to come over and notice that my component name, I'm going to clear this sorting, and I'm now back to my default of the way I set it up. So I've got quite a few things to look at now. I'm starting to think about how do I want to look at this data. So I'm going to sort on my component name. I'm going to do a second sort on my major component, shift, click, and sort ascending. So now when I start looking at this, I look at all of my cretes, and I now know, based off of the way this is sorted, I want to be able to come in here and do a descending sort on this one. So now I've got all my major components. So I've got this pretty well set up, and I can start scrolling across and start looking at how my cretes have been populated as a component. But when I look at this, I keep forgetting about which data mapping that I'm working on, and so now I don't know where my cretes are. So I want to be able to freeze these columns so that I can scroll across, and so I can do that by coming over here, and I can do a right click, and let's do a right click on the slope gradient, high, and I'm going to freeze the column. Now that column is frozen, and now I can look at my cretes again, and as I scroll across, notice that I now have a record of which data map unit it occurs in, which soil it is, what the percent composition is, and what the slope group is. And I can come in here and say, I want to add a sort on RV slope. So now I can start taking a look at how are my 1% cretes populated, and how is, I've got a 2, a 4, and a 5, and a 5. So you can see that I can now start looking at how this data is populated, and all I'm doing is manipulating the screen layout, the table layout, so that I can do a better job of analyzing my data. And that's what the purpose of all of this is to be able to rapidly analyze your data. So now I come in here and I think, well, I'd like to see some of this data that's populated and some of it's not populated. What's going on right here? This is all official data, and this one's been manually populated and this one hasn't. Well, it might come down into looking at child table information. Well, how do I analyze my child tables? What we've done is we've added the plus on each side, left side of the records. And under that, if you click on the plus, it'll open up the child tables. And here are all the child tables. But now you got to look at, oh my God, where's the one I want? We also add the choice list. And you can click on the choice list and you can go directly to that particular child table that you want to see. So I can go to geomorphic description, and it would open up the geomorphic description for this particular crete. Well, now basically for any table that I open up, it'll open up there. So that gives you a good handle on how that operates. So I hope that helps you out. You've got the ability to come in here and scroll left and right using the pointers on the far right side of the child table. So if you wanted to come in and see what restrictions there were, no restrictions. Notice that when I changed that, it left intact the second record in the geomorphic, but it only moved the particular one that I was working on. So here's my text, and there's my component text record for this particular record, but this one remains a geomorphic description. So it gives you a good handle on how we can manipulate or review these data records very quickly, very timely. I showed you this in the other video series, but I'm going to come up here to my butler, and I'm going to open up my horizon table. And then I'm going to open up from the horizon table, I'm going to open up the horizon texture group table. Then from the horizon texture group, I'm going to open up the texture. And then from the texture, I'm going to open up the modifier. So you can see we're getting pretty deep, and you'll notice that I've now lost this particular record here. I've got to scroll up. Oh, well, that didn't work because now I missed that whole record that I'm looking for. This magnifying glass right here is the tool that you use to be able to promote that particular table up. And when I promote that table up, I can now look at a continuation of all the data. And notice there is no modifier record for this particular series. To close that out, all I do is click on the X, and that takes care of it. So that should help you out there. This will end this video, part 2. We'll go to part 3, which will be talking about how you create and save table layouts.